So, are we recording? Yes, we are. Thank you for your patience while we went through some technical issues. Good evening and welcome to the April 14th, 2026 Zoning Board of Appeals regular monthly meeting for the Village of Ossining. This is a public hearing that is quasi-judicial. We're using a hybrid format for today's meeting, for sure, both in person and online via Zoom. Members of the public attending via Zoom may use the raise hand feature, which you'll find at the bottom at the appropriate time if you'd like to make a comment. And if you're attending by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. It functions as the same way as Zoom. During the meeting, you can email comments to plan@villageofotsiningny.gov. Maddie will see those up front, and if it's appropriate, we can put those into the meeting. So we have one member in person who's already been given the ground rules in person. So for online, if you are called upon to speak, just state your name and your address or your affiliation to the application. Joining us today, we have Maddie Zahach, our Assistant Village Manager. We have Joe Agostinelli, our Building Inspector. We have Taryn Rainey, our Assistant Land Use Attorney. And we have Jamie Kane, our Board Secretary. We get a roll call of the board, please.
Sure. Olga Montes. Here. Chris Asensio.
Here.
Michael Spall.
Here.
Corey Block. Here. Erica Matias. Here. And Chair Appleton.
Here. So we had myself, Corey, Olga, Chris, and Erica at the last meeting. So those will be the people who are eligible to vote to approve or not approve the minutes. So could I get a motion to approve last month's minutes?
Motion to approve, Olga.
Seconded, Corey.
Olga, then Corey. If there's no objection to approving the minutes as they were distributed, the minutes are approved. All right, moving on to new business of the board. We have ZBA 22-2025, 5-7 Hill Street. Oh, that is our minutes. Awkward. Let's get to our agenda. It's called autopilot. New business of the board, ZBA 07-2026 for 74 Revolutionary Road. Applicant is seeking reapproval of a use variance to permit residential apartment units to support a museum located in a single family zoning district. Doug, we have you to come up to speak. I do need to preface with, for transparency reasons, I am a member of the Jug Tavern, which is presenting. I am not a participating member. We give them money. I talked to our counsel to determine whether or not this was appropriate or conflict of interest. I am confident that it can be an impartial decision maker on this application, so I'll do less speaking, but I'm not electing to recuse myself from this.
Thank you for your disclosure.
Of course. All right, Mr. Turchin.
And thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, of course. See, he didn't even know.
I'm Doug Turchin. I'm the president of the Jug Tavern. I've been the president for over 10 years, either between 10 and 15, I can't remember. So I've been in front of you guys before for the same thing. And basically, we're asking you to renew the variance. What we would really love is a permanent variance, if that's at all possible, if only not to repeat this every 5 years. So basically, where the variance is to allow us to rent out the top floor of the Jug Tavern, which is one of the oldest historic buildings in Ossining. It's in Sparta. We use the ground floor for community activities, for historic speakers and all kinds of stuff. We're working on a timeline project, which we hope to get the schools involved in. So we do have a lot of people in and out of the Jug. And you know, it's an old building, and for a lot of years, it didn't need much repair. But in the last few years, we replaced the roof. We're putting a new heating and air conditioning system. And we rely on this second rent. We have a barn in the back that we rent out also. So the variance is to allow us to rent out the second floor, because if we didn't have both those rents, we would not be able to do all the things we do. And mostly we offer everything for free.
And just for the benefit of the board and the public, just to confirm verbally, nothing's changing. This is how it currently operates.
Right.
Apartment above the Jug Tavern and then in the barn behind it. So two different houses.
And that's been going on since it started.
So just for the board's edification, the Jug Tavern received a use variance in 1990 to have the second floor residential unit to support the first floor museum use. This use variance has been renewed in 5-year increments since 1990. for whatever reason, it didn't get renewed in 2025 when it expired. So the applicant is just here seeking a reapproval of the use variant. Nothing has changed in terms of their circumstances.
Do we know why the 5 year, was that like a site or a use variance back in the day or something?
Because the code changed in 2000, or the zoning changed in 2007 or something, was that part of it?
No, so you might have a little more insight.
Yeah, I can explain, or I can tell you what has been explained to me in the past, and usually it is somebody on your committee who asks why we're doing this. And basically it was explained that if we weren't using it as a museum, if it ceased operating as a museum, then we wouldn't get the variance. So as opposed to a permanent variance, and then if the museum stopped operating.
Cause it runs with the property, not with
Right.
ownership.
I think I have what's the council and I had spoken about this previously, which I think is a strong compromise. Things that are likely to be continuously approved forever. Um,
30 years.
it doesn't make sense for us or for you to keep doing it, but it is important that the use is tied to the support of the museum below.
Right.
So an alternative could be a use variance conditional on a permanent variance, conditional on the fact that the museum is in operation, and if the museum ceases to operate, that variance would expire.
That would be amazing.
Is that inaccurate?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we'll figure out.
We'll
more
figure out the
proper-
wording, but in
that's the gist of it.
essence, yes, you can have the variance forever as long as the museum stays. Museum goes, so does the variance.
And it is a residential district, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
That's my two.
And then just another point of literally discussion.
So if there are no changes, and this has been done in 5-year increments since 1990, do we have to go through the 5 factors
So this is a use variance, so that's the 4 factors.
or 4 factors, which all are?
So here's the thing. I suggest that the board conduct a secret review of this application. The way that secret was conducted back in the 90s is a little questionable, and I think it leaves some vulnerability
Mhm.
on the record. So I suggest that the board declares intent to act as the agency tonight. We'll allow that 30-day period to commence, and at the next meeting, if the board so chooses, it can vote on the application. I would recommend the board take a look at the materials the applicant submitted, just so we can refresh the discussion on the 4 factors. So we can really bring this application up to 2026.
Mhm.
I just don't want you to keep piggybacking on
A
something that's
decision
30
from
years
1990,
old
Yeah.
without having done it for.
Well, especially because this is a new application technically that lapsed.
The board can rely on its previous secret findings. The issue is this is a type 2. When use variances are type 1 actions that require some level of review.
Mm.
And so I don't want you just to say, yeah, ditto, whenever that happened, because that's not really accurate.
Well, I think going into the possibility of a permanent variance, having a stronger foundation that starts in 2026.
Exactly.
Seems
So
appropriate.
it's more procedural than anything, but it strengthens the record for everybody here.
No, you don't have to bulldoze the tavern tonight, there's no
But
decision.
what, to build a ballroom.
So that's what we
What-
had.
what-
Yeah.
What's the 4 things you said it has to go?
So the use variance, there are 4 factors the board must consider and must find an affirmative finding in each of the 4. The first factor is the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return as shown by your competent financial evidence. So you provided your financials. The second factor is the alleged hardship is unique. The third is the requested use variance will not alter the essential characteristic or character of the neighborhood. Then finally, the alleged hardship is self-created.
So traditionally, use variances don't have an easy time here, for the reason that unlike an area variance, where we can balance what's working and what's not among the 5 factors or the 5, I guess, little tests that we have. With use variances, you must satisfy all 4. This is public, because this is all of New York State, and probably many states use variations of this, right? It's not,
Yes.
but this is governed by state law. So if you search for use variance New York State requirements, you will get these 4 factors, and you can even, if you would like, submit something that just addresses those as part of, like an addendum to the record that stands now.
Do I need to? I mean, I would just, should I be doing that?
It wouldn't be a bad idea to do that, and Jamie, I think if we could post the original 1990 resolution that has the board findings on it,
Can we read
that way the board and the applicant can take a look at it.
Do you need that versus the findings from from 5 years ago?
I believe the finding from 5 years ago, it was
It was
just an
piggybacking
extension.
off, yeah.
So basically, just take a look at what was previously argued, and just supplement as needed. If there's anything that needs to be added to each of the factors that the board discussed way back when, please feel free to supplement. But otherwise, the board will certainly consider all the prior testimony on this application.
Okay, is there? a
This
difference?
is for, to keep in precedent of what we do with other things, if we are gonna switch from every 5 years, that's been done for 25 to 30 years straight, and we're gonna switch to granting a permanent use variance, it is important, and I think Karen's right, that we lay all the groundwork, so, because we would request the same thing from others.
Okay.
And those 4 factors I read out, they're in the village code. You can look them up, and it doesn't have to be something like super intense, just
Yeah,
to help supplement the record for the board.
okay, is there a deadline for when I should be doing that?
So Jamie, what's the next submission deadline for the next meeting?
The revision deadline is next Thursday.
Okay, and then,
At noon.
At noon.
At noon.
and then do we come back for another meeting?
Yes, you
Yes.
do, because we, based on this, we won't be voting tonight.
Okay, and then, great. It just, if that didn't happen, the permanent, where are we on a 5 year?
So it's one and the same, pretty much.
Okay.
We're voting on permanent,
Conditional.
conditional, permanent,
Right,
variance. I don't think 5 years on the table, because for everyone, it is better to permanent if the requirements are satisfied.
This is kind of like bringing it up to what we do nowadays,
Yes.
which is we don't usually issue them for a period of time. We usually issue them conditionally,
Right.
so we'll just, that's why it's not really a consideration anymore.
okay,
Chairman, I think it might be a good idea to outline a little bit about, since this is a volunteer organization, gentlemen's here this evening, goodwill towards Jug Tavern, to outline a financial, page, what it should look like, which should be in there. I think it'll be helpful.
So I know you put financial statements in there, but I'm wondering,
Mhm.
I thought it was pretty,
financial projections.
Would you be able just to kind of summarize how the income from the residential apartment, how that really benefits Jug Tavern and why?
Oh, they did projections without and with the variant.
Okay, and you were satisfied with what you received or so far? I mean,
I was already familiar with this, yeah,
So we'll,
so.
but it gives us a little more time to look for each individual.
yeah,
I mean, the biggest costs are, utilities, insurance is a huge cost.
Insurance looks like your largest
Yeah,
cost.
it's over $10,000 a year. And, lawn care and a few other things
Yeah.
and upkeep. Basically, we do a bunch of fundraisers. We have membership dues and people making contributions, but it doesn't come up to that.
right.
In any way at all. It's all spelled out there, but the other thing is the capital improvements, the buildings, over 200 years old, it was updated in the 80s and 90s, and then nothing went wrong, and all of a sudden, in the last few years, we.
So a line item for each of those, areas would probably be good.
so they provided the financial
Yep, they have all
projections.
those.
I think it's all in.
Taryn, a question that I have, would this be a permanent variance to stay with the property, or is this as long as the use will continue?
As long as the use is continued, so as long as the museum use is in existence, the use variance may continue, but if there's a discontinuance of the museum, then the
Well,
use variance will.
I think it's an appropriate question for this reason. I'm gonna go wild hypothetical. Jug Tavern sells the property to a new owner, they immediately occupy and decide to do a different kind of museum, regardless of the context. Would that be allowable under that condition?
It depends how we draft the condition.
Great. And is that kind of what you're going with, Joe?
Yeah, also because when you grant the variance, it stays with the property. But we weren't sure if we had discussed this in ourselves and the staff, and we talked about changing this to a variance. as long as the Jug Tavern's use exists. But if, like you said, if it was sold to someone else and it was something else, would that variance continue along with that, or only as long as the Jug Tavern?
It's to a specific organization.
So it'd be tied specifically to the
Their
organization.
successors and designs, and
Yeah.
it would probably, let's think about how we're gonna do this. It might be best just to say as long as a nonprofit museum occupies the space, but let's think about how we're gonna actually phrase that.
Yeah.
But I see what you're getting at, with that.
Like I could start a nonprofit museum of local cats. We're not necessarily opposed to that, that would be, a tourist project, but it would fit technically the guidance for.
Yeah, let me look at that, I see what you're saying.
It could be, as a suggestion, I know she's the lawyer, she's gonna do the research, but it could be tied to a museum that is local history oriented, because that museum is in a historic district and is tied to local history specifically in that area. Yeah, cool. So tonight we are not gonna vote, just there's small suggestion from you, guidance from council in terms of wording on this. Additional time for the board to look at the financials and materials that were submitted. And then I think next month, as long as you get your submission in by Thursday noon, next Thursday noon.
Right, and when do you meet again?
We meet every second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m.
Oh, so we're not voting on the application, but we are.
You can open public hearing on this,
Okay, great.
And
And
then the
then we'll try.
resolution,
and then we'll declare intent to act as lead agency.
what is, by declared, with like a vote, but, or.
You don't have to do a roll call vote, it's by unanimous consent, you can do.
So could I get a motion to open public hearing?
Motion to open, Olga?
Seconded, Corey.
Online, I only, there's one attendee.
I believe that's the applicant for the next,
Okay. Nobody in the room in addition to the representative for the application. So if there are no objections to adjourning the public hearing, could we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Kirk.
Because we don't want to close it because the application's.
Hold on, we have to figure out, let's do that, there's five, there's six of us, so I think
Yeah.
Chris is voting because you have the longer unexpired term,
Oh,
so,
Okay.
sorry.
so we need
So could we get a motion to adjourn the public hearing for this application?
Motion adjourned, Chris?
Thank you.
Seconded, Corey.
We have Chris and Corey. If there's no objections to adjourning the public hearing for this is adjourned. Could we get a motion to act as the lead agency for SECRA,
To declare your intent to act as lead
to
agency.
declare our intent to act as lead agency for SECRA on this application?
So moved, Olga.
Seconded,
I'm not
Corey.
reading all
Olga, then Corey, thank you all. And for this, in lieu of a roll call vote, if there's no objection for us intent to act as the lead agency for SECRA, we are now declaring our intent. Approved.
Notice of intent.
Notice of intent. I think just.
Yeah, I would,
The next
I would
meeting
have
you can-
butchered that whole thing.
At the next meeting, you can declare your intent, provided that no one else wants to do it.
We have to give them notes, got it. You are done, yes.
Thank you so much for your patience. Yeah, have a good night.
See you next
I'll be
week.
back.
All right, moving on
Do we
to,
need a motion to adjourn the application?
oh, we do, yes, thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn the application?
Motion to adjourn the application, Olga.
Seconded, Corey.
Take me out of my thing and I'm
Well,
wrong.
that's all in the poll.
Yes.
If there are no objections to adjourning this application, application is adjourned. Moving on to our final application of the day, we have ZBA 24/2023, 142 to 144 South Highland Avenue. This is applicant seeking a second extension of variances granted for signage for a proposed Popeyes restaurant. Before we get into it, I will say, I was discussing earlier, just to clarify, we have a max of 2 extensions that we can grant anybody, and the total of those 2 extensions can be 2 years. So, if we decide to grant an extension tonight, the max we can add is a year. We've already done a year one time.
Correct.
And it is the final extension we're allowed to grant. Great, hello, sir.
Hello.
Give us your pitch.
My name is Mason Bergerson, 1601 Benner Memorial Highway, Atlantia. I represent Phoenix Engineering. We're the design engineer on this project. and we're just looking to do the final extension on this. There's been some delays with construction costs and everything, and the applicant still moving forward with it. They're still in the works.
So I'm under the impression you're still under review. For the benefit of the board and the record, will you state what's currently going on right now?
Or Joe can do that too.
Or Joe can do that now.
I'm sorry,
They submitted an application for a building permit. We had it reviewed by our third-party reviewing firm, and they've already responded with some comments, and that's been given to the developer, and we're just waiting for them to respond back with revised plans addressing those comments, and if they're all complete and satisfied, then they would be issued a permit. So they're almost
So
there.
progress continues. It's not just a dead application.
They're towards the
No.
end.
Great.
No,
The
no,
building is
they're
really
they're
good.
progressively moving forward.
Great. No questions from me. No one else?
No.
All right. Could I get a motion to open public hearing?
Public hearing on this?
Oh, yeah, it's an extension. That's great. Let's do a roll call vote, because we don't need to go through the 5 factors, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We need a motion though. Can we get a motion to approve the extension as requested for ZBA 24/2023?
This will be a 1-year extension?
1-year final extension.
Motion to approve, Chris?
Chris,
Seconded, Corey.
Chris and Corey. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Olga
Yeah,
Montez,
do it.
Aye.
Chris Asensio,
Aye.
Michael Spall,
Aye.
Corey Block,
Aye.
and Chair Aberrose.
Aye. All right, final extension granted. We won't see you again, but good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
I was told when we came in that 34 State Street has adjourned again.
Yes, so they submitted revised plans. They're going before the planning board in the next couple of weeks to present, and they'll be back before you soon.
Yep, so no fault of their own, they're just continuing the process, so still on the agenda. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Chris?
Seconded, Corey.
If there are no objections to adjourning, meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
What?